Impetus, episode 120. A promo package kicks off tonight's episode with a replay from episode 109. Episode 109 is shown where Gary Federline fooled everyone by faking a career retirement. Destroying Riki Mathews by sending him through an elevated ladder, Gary went on to form a unity with CJ, Stephen Dreadful, and Jade Williams. Last week, Greg Williams shocked the world and of course, KOTR, as he instantly kneed Stephen Dreadful's face into oblivion in his first ever title match. 15 seconds into the huge contest and it was all over. With KOTR embarrassed, they decided to beat justice out of the Rebel, only for Daria and Riki Mathews to save the day. The Impetus hero has returned and is back for vengeance. After an intro to the show, the commentators discuss what is coming up tonight. Johnny Fabuloso takes on Stephen Dreadful. The two former number one contenders collide in hopes to restore momentum. Also, Riki Mathews returns. The Killers of the Revolution, being Jade Williams and Gary Federline, take on the returning Riki Mathews and his tag team partner, Daria. Enter Warren Jaxon. Warren kicks off the show with happiness with a promo. A lot has happened on the show lately, huh? The chaos of KOTR continues, Greg Williams surprises everyone with yet another world title defense, and Riki Mathews has returned. One thing that has been a constant, however, is Warren Jaxon and his coast-to-coast title reign. He vents his success as the coast-to-coast champion, especially after defeating Charlie Finch and Jimmy Sparrow last week in triple threat action. However, he reminds all of his new challenger that awaits him at a night in hell, none other than Dylan Dark. The champion also reminds us that it wasn't too long ago where this exact same match happened on episode 112. Now, before Dylan comes out here and tries to convince everyone, even his own children, why things would be different this time around, Warren wants him to save it. Warren is fully aware that this time around, the match won't be out of nowhere, unlike episode 112. He also knows that Dylan has pressure from his children, forcing him to be what he used to be. Warren doesn't care what excuses Dylan has, as he only cares about one thing, the coast-to-coast title. He wants to know what type of match he is going to retain his title in at a night in hell. Enter the Condemnation. Dylan enters with a snigger while his children follow. Dylan tells Warren that he won't ramble about their past, but he does want to talk about the pressure from his children. This pressure is by nobody but himself. He is the Emperor. He is Dylan Dark. And his goal, apart from being the coast-to-coast champion, is to shape and mold his children into the stars of tomorrow, rather than see them waste away in the mid-card forever like Warren Jaxon. However, he's made a big mistake in the upbringing of his children. See, just because he has a past of being the greatest coast-to-coast champion of all time, that's right, the greatest coast-to-coast champion of all time, that doesn't mean that they will do the same. Dylan must lead by example. He can't expect Jarvis and Mark to be inspired by him if they have never witnessed his greatness before. He will show them and Warren just how dominant he used to be and still is, as at a night in hell, Warren Jaxon will defend his title against Dylan Dark in a 3-on-1 handicap match. With Warren rolling his eyes at the stupid and lame idea, so too does Jarvis in the background, both realizing the stupid and lame idea in order to appear dominant. With Dylan chucking the mic down, he and Mark, I guess followed by Jarvis as well, begin to surround Warren around the ring, foreshadowing what will come at the pay-per-view. However, enter Vipernip. The president enters and halts the scene, reminding all of who the damn boss is around here. Despite Warren's inability to take his thumb out of his ass, and despite Dylan going through this midlife crisis of his, Neither of them actually have the power to choose the stipulation at a night in hell. At least, not yet. Vipenip wants to hand over that responsibility to Warren Jaxon. With Warren sniggering and the condemnation in anger, Vipenip quickly switches their emotions. You see, Warren Jaxon will choose the stipulation for the Coast to Coast title match at a night in hell. That is, if he defeats Jarvis Banks and Mark Hamill in separate matches. With Warren now irritated and Dylan the one sniggering, Vipenip explains the reason for this. You see, Dylan Dark went through 2 matches to become challenger. Now, Warren must do the same in order to decide the stipulation. It's only fair, right? If Warren loses a match against either one of Dylan's children, then Dylan will decide the match at the pay-per-view. With Dylan talking trash with huge ego, Vipenip addresses him. Dylan had better hope his children win, as if they don't, not only does Warren decide the stipulation, but whatever the stipulation it may be, Jarvis and Mark are banned from that match. With Dylan upset, it only gets worse for him. The first of potential 2 matches will take place next week. However, Dylan Dark is in action right now in his own match, and it's against this man. Enter Skar. The chaotic creature enters with a fearful condemnation looking on. Oh, and with Warren cackling with amusement as he leaves. Skar vs. Dylan is next. Match 1. Skar vs. Dylan Dark with Mark Hamill and Jarvis Banks. Returning from the commercial break, Warren Jaxon has joined the commentary desk to watch his future contender in action. Skar has been nothing but dominant during the commercials. With Dylan in trouble, he is able to gain some offense, only to be stomped out by the power of the chaotic creature. Witnessing his father figure be disfigured, Mark Hamill can't take any more and grabs a chair from the timekeeper's area, hoping to hand it over to the fallen Dylan. However, Skar holds the chair down with his foot, forbidding Dylan to use the chair. Skar picks up the steel and thinks about using it himself. Wondering if he should obliterate Dylan's back, he raises the steel only for the official to snatch the chair off of him. Skar is furious as the official leans out of the ring to give the chair back to the timekeeper. This allows Jarvis and Mark to storm into the ring and beat down Skar. The children perform an attack on Skar in the corner, only it doesn't last too long, as the chaotic creature pushes them away from him. As the children stumble back, they walk into a counterattack from the intervening Susan and Dominic Silver. Mark cops a revival kick from the appearing Susan, sending him out of the ring KO'd. Meanwhile, Jarvis gets kicked in the gut by Dominic Silver and hit with the package piledriver. With the family members exiting the ring, joining the KO'd children on the outside, Dylan recovers with fear and is hit with the resurrection from Skar. The family have outmatched the nation. Winner, Skar. As the family leave in dominance, Warren leaves the commentary desk and walks past the recovering condemnation on the outside. Chuckling at the Emperor, Warren throws his title over his shoulder as a disappointed Dylan vents his pain and embarrassment. How is the Emperor going to cause some sort of threat just 3 weeks away from a night in hell? Our screens then cut to the interview area backstage, ready for an interview with Greg Williams. The Rebel is introduced and asked how he feels making history last week by defeating Steven Dreadful for the world title in just 15 seconds. Greg claims that he kind of feels bad. Feels bad that he didn't do it in 14 seconds, to be honest. Steven and KOTR may have shown that they can dish out the damage and make an impact to the revolution of Impetus, but they also showed how dense they truly are. Greg is reminded of his previous contenders for the gold, from Steven Dreadful to Johnny Fabuloso to Jimmy Sparrow to the man who returned last week, Riki Mathews, and saved him. Greg is asked who he'd like to see next in line for his gold. Before Greg can answer, he chuckles as he sees Wazzy D standing in front of him. Wazzy wants no issue with Greg but sees no better time than now to have a little bitch. It seems as though no matter how many times Wazzy attempts to achieve something, it gets shoved right up his ass. Not only does the Coast to Coast title get snatched from him multiple times, but his good buddy, Barry the Bogan, just won't come back to Impetus no matter how much he tries to persuade him. Wazzy can either see this as unfair, or can see it as a calling. Wazzy ain't no believer in all the paranormal hunky-flunky, but if he can't get his tag team partner back, and if he can't compete for the Coast to Coast title, then he either gets surgery and faces Daria, or he competes for the World Impetus title. Wazzy challenges Greg to a match tonight in hopes to be granted a world title match at a Night in Hell. Greg is happy to accept the challenge, but tells Wazzy that this is an interview. His interview, so he should get the hell out. Wazzy leaves with Greg looking on, ready for the match. With Wazzy and Greg set for this evening, a promotion for the following matches are shown. Tonight, El Fuego host a challenge called the Flame Off. El Fuego have a challenge for Matariamas. The question is, what is it? Also, Johnny Fabuloso and Steven Dreadful do battle in hopes to restore some lost momentum. Also, Riki Mathews returns as he takes on KOTR alongside his good friend, Daria. And Immunity are set to do battle yet again against the family this week. Susan and Dominic Silva must take them on. Jerry and Bobby demanded more of the family, but the question is, why would they want to do that? Speaking of Immunity, we then cut to a backstage parking lot segment with Angel. Walking through the parking lot with the company's costume designer, Angel is talking about how she wants her hair done for the evening, only to be gobsmacked by what she sees in front of her. On the floor stands a huge photo frame wrapped in gift paper, complete with a ribbon. Overwhelmed and OMGing, Angel is ultra embarrassed as she opens the gift in front of the designer. She OMGs again with passion to reveal a colourful poster of Post Malone, only to ask the designer what the painting is actually of. Angel is told that it's Post Malone, with Angel instantly saying, OMG, I love her. She walks on holding the gift and asks who it was possibly from, only to see Jerry Cain leaning on a nearby container with cockiness. She is so happy to see him and asks if the gifts have actually been him the whole time. Jerry flicks the dust off of his shoulder and claims that, hey baby, he ain't one to kiss and tell. Angel is embarrassed, OMGing once again, and asks if he just called her baby. Jerry guesses that he did, asking if she minds, with Angel thinking for a second, only to look at her gift and claim that she doesn't mind at all. Blushing, Angel claims that she's going to get settled, but she'll see him later, okay? Jerry is happy to see that booty walk past and clenches his fist in happiness, delighted to have progressed his relationship with Angel. Enter Cortni. The commentators assume that Cortni is happy to be entering and away from the immunity situation. 1 week after being defeated by Jade in her specialty hardcore match, Cortni must compete with Akira in hopes to regain some lost momentum. Enter Akira. Convinced that she is starting her new journey, Akira is motivated for new beginnings as she enters with a bland and vague look. Match 2. Akira versus Cortni. The fight between the two leads to the outside, where Cortni drop toe holds Akira's face into the announce table, right into the corner of it. With Akira stumbling with huge pain, Cortni takes advantage by throwing her back in the ring and hitting the Molly Go round for the win. Winner, Cortni. Akira holds her eye in dire pain after the match, with the side of it already turning beet red. Cortni exits happy with her regained momentum. A promotion for next week is seen, as Warren Jaxon will take on Jarvis Banks. If Warren wins, he must beat Mark Emil the following week to decide the stipulation at a Night in Hell. Speaking of the pay-per-view, The Coast to Coast Championship match is set. It is official as Warren Jaxon, the champion, defends against Dylan Dark. Also, the Women's Championship is on the line as Daria, the champion, takes on Jade Williams. With more matches being set soon for A Night in Hell, the stipulations are yet to be decided. Enter El Fuego. Synxia and Listio enter with excitement, ready to host the first ever edition of the Flame Off. Now, if you don't know what the Flame Off is, the commentary team don't either, hoping the Mexicans will explain as they get in the ring. Listio reminds us that Matariamas have done a great job in intimidating and imitating El Fuego, not just becoming the champions, but by using El Fuego's own move to retain the gold. If they truly believe that they are the best luchador tag team, then they will accept the challenge of a flame-off. El Fuego call out Matariamas to question them of their identity, believing them to merely be impersonators of the greatest luchador tag team in wrestling history, El Fuego. Synxia calls out their impersonators to explain and start the flame-off. Enter Matariamas. Jillian Day can't wait to speak as she rants down the ramp. She orders everyone in attendance to respect her team as not only the champions, but every bit as good as El Fuego. With Synxia telling the nasty hoe to shut her damn mouth, he demands that her team prove it. El Fuego host the Flame Off, to where they and Matariamas must compete in multiple challenges that require lucha libre skill and knowledge. El Fuego provide a crash mat for themselves and Matariamas to hit luchador moves and sequences on each other. Jillian feels as though it is beneath her team to flip around like silly little children. However, she and her team are easily baited into the contest as El Fuego promise to name them not only the tag team champions, but to even grant them the satisfaction and stating that they are better than El Fuego in every way. The competition sees the two teams perform amazing high-flying moves, using the crash pad to soften their blows. El Fuego asks the crowd who won each round. With El Fuego clearly being supported by the crowd, Jillian gets upset after each round and demands that this stop. About to leave, Matariamas are convinced to stay, as El Fuego have but one more challenge left. If Fuego lose this challenge, then they lose the entire contest. Simple. However, if they win, then they not only get a rematch for the gold, but they get the rematch for the gold at A Night in Hell, going on to whoop their asses in a stipulation match. Jillian wants to deny, but her team accepts. Listio chucks the crash mat to the outside and begins to explain the final challenge. However, he'd rather just show them in physical form. Listio then proceeds to hit a gorgeous dive on the outside, with the opponents and even his tag team partner Synxia looking on with shock in the ring. With Jillian pushing their dropped jaws back in place, Matariamas argue as to who will hit the dive first. With Listio taunting them on the outside, Matariamas prepare, only to stare at Synxia and hit him with the bomberos. With Listio storming back in the ring, he gets hit with the fireball yet again. With Listio down, it allows Matariamas to destroy Synxia more and more, injuring him by hitting the bomberos now on a steel chair. Matariamas leave with their pride and their titles, and with Jillian Day grinning from ear to ear. Listio recovers while Synxia barely moves, holding his face and shoulder in pain. With the show fading to black, it reopens after commercial breaks in the backstage parking lot. The commentators welcome all back from the break, but return to air with bad news. Shown in the parking lot is Synxia being helped into an ambulance by doctors and, of course, Hernando Listio. After a light-hearted and entertaining segment, Matariamas have taken out half of El Fuego. But for how long? Enter Wazzy D. Still without his tag team partner, the commentators mention how Wazzy seems to be doing everything he can to achieve success without Barry the Bogan. Enter Greg Williams. The Rebel enters with his title in confidence. Greg's reign as champion is going strong after his rapid defeat of Steven Dreadful. With KOTR being silenced, for now, the commentators wonder what involvement Greg will have at A Night in Hell. Match 3. Greg Williams vs Wazzy D. Wazzy uses his quickness to gain multiple advantages throughout the contest, only for the champion to prove why he is exactly that. With Wazzy mounting a last-ditch comeback, the coast-to-coast seems near, only for Greg to catch him mid-air with the scrutiny. With Greg pinning Wazzy, the gangster stays in the match as he grabs the nearby rope. Greg sighs, understanding Wazzy's tenacity. Greg taunts for the Gordo Cutter. With Wazzy slowly recovering, he turns around, only to counter the strike and roll Greg up with a schoolboy pin. And at the latest of 2 counts, Greg not only kicks out, but uses the momentum to roll through and catch Wazzy D in the triangle choke, tapping him out after a great contest. Winner, Greg Williams. Despite Wazzy D constantly showing great determination throughout the contest, something seems to be preventing him from victory. Could it be the lack of support from his partner? If it is, Wazzy had better hope Barry comes back quickly, or he may as well join him in the unemployment line. Our champion leaves with confidence yet again, proud of his performance. Can anyone deny the Rebel? Another immunity segment is seen backstage, this time in the locker room. Finch has gathered Angel, Bobby and Jerry inside the locker room, moments before their match against the family, Susan and Dominic Silva. In front of Angel and right in the middle of the team's tension, Finch wants his team to know how appreciative he has been of their loyalty and efforts, truly humbled by their unity. With Bobby and Jerry confused, they are even more stumped by Finch wanting to hand his brothers some gifts, seeing as, he's a generous guy and all. With Angel impressed, Bobby and Jerry notice this, irritated with his attempt to seem great. Finch gives Bobby the gift of wrist tape? Bobby is at first unamused. Finch's wrist tape? What? Yeah, Charlie says. He knows Bobby is into all that sentimental stuff and knows how he's always wanted to be like Finch in every possible way, and now he can be. With Bobby still uninterested, Finch convinces him to take it by claiming how much he knows Bobby appreciates people with big hearts. Bobby goes along with it. Wow, man, the wrist tape, thank you so much. Finch then moves on to Jerry and states how he knows he likes to take care of himself. With all the ladies that he gets on a nightly basis. With Jerry worried about Angel's reaction to that, Finch grants him the gift of his tanning spray. His half-empty bottle of tanning spray. Jerry knows what Finch is trying to do and pretends to love the half-used bottle, claiming that he's going to save it for a special occasion. For when he meets the right girl. Jerry then raises his eyebrows at the blushing Angel, only for Bobby to interrupt with desperation, claiming that he and Jerry should head out for their match right now, please now. Asking if Angel is coming, the princess is about to join them, only for Finch to hold her back to talk about some immunity issues. With Bobby and Jerry intimidated, they ask the two multiple times if they're sure, leaving with anxiety. With Finch alone with Angel, he wants to discuss these gifts from her secret admirer. Apparently, the mystery man has left her a present in the parking lot yet again. With Angel gasping with excitement, Finch tells her to get sorted and meet him in the parking lot. But what about Bobby and Jerry? Angel asks. Don't worry about them. They'll be fine. They're only facing 2 demonic freaks. Impetus heads into the commercial break with immunity in action next. After the break, enter Bobby Manuel and Jerry Cain. The two enter distracted once again, which is something they really shouldn't be when approaching a match with the frickin' family. Enter the family. Dominic and Susan enter together for the first time ever as a team. The commentators mention how crazy this may sound to the viewers, but yes, the family is getting stronger and stronger due to Silver and Susan's chemistry. Perhaps Bobby and Jerry are a little jealous of the family's bond. Match 4. Immunity versus the family. Bobby and Jerry do a much better job teaming together with Angel not at ringside. However, their offense doesn't last too long as it is stomped out by the sinister duo. Using their dirty antics to gain control, Bobby and Jerry beat down the resilient Dominic, only to be interrupted in the midst of their offense by what they see on the screen. Backstage in a parking lot, Angel is seen jumping for joy in front of a stylish car with a ribbon on it. Finch is seen near her, smiling as she is excited to have received an amazing gift. An expensive display of appreciation has been shown by the immunity leader. This causes Bobby and Jerry to be bothered by what they see inside the ring. Finch has clearly won Angel over, and as a result, it costs Bobby and Jerry the match as they are destroyed by Dominic and Susan. Once again, the family conquer immunity, proving how strong Susan and Dominic are, and just how weak, in many ways, immunity have become. Winners, the family. Susan and Dominic exit in happiness after a hug, while Bobby and Jerry look back at the screen in pain and sadness. Back to the parking lot, Angel is seen hugging Finch, elated with her new toy. Jumping for joy, she asks for the keys to take it out for a spin. Finch is a bit worried but stays calm, stating that he left them in the locker room, but he hopes she likes it. Angel loves it and ignores the weird sentiment from Finch and gives him a huge kiss on the cheek. She checks out the car with glee, fixing her hair in the side mirror, of course, all allowing Finch to look into the camera with a snigger, almost teasing his teammates who view from the ring. The show then transitions to a backstage interview in the interview area with Empire. Empire introduced, and with Impetus having a moment to ask, the interviewer wonders what happens now with the team. There seems to have been this slow split between the two, what with the losses in the coast-to-coast title matches and the beat-the-clock challenges recently. Have we reached an end to Empire as a team? Blake is angry and claims that it's about time someone asked them that question rather than creating an answer for themselves. Corey claims that Empire have never wanted to split, nor will they. They are still extraordinary and still want to pursue greatness to make their fallen hero, Dave Falcon, proud. Empire is sick of being forgotten about and demand higher placement on the shows, only to be interrupted by Josh Alba and Freddie Cornell, the Essentials. Empire feel forgotten? Ha! What about the Essentials? Josh and Freddie claim that Empire have had more than their fair share of matches and spotlights, not just over the past few weeks, but the entirety of their careers. Empire need to realize that their tag team run has been a lot like their sex lives, as they have never just seemed to rise to the occasion. Maybe that's why Blake has gotten angry all of a sudden. Or maybe that's why Corey prays and makes love to his giant cardboard cutout of Dave Falcon every night. Empire are insulted and feel the Essentials have crossed the line. The Essentials gasp with sorrow. They didn't mean to offend. With Josh hoping to apologize, Freddie grabs some duct tape and sticks a long line of it along the floor in front of them. Josh vents a not-so-sincere apology to Empire for offending them. In hopes to shake Empire's hands, the Essentials step forward and notice that, looks like they've crossed the line again. You know what that means. The Essentials then superkick Empire in the interview area, leaving while laughing and Empire in pain. Enter Johnny Fabuloso. The Fabulous One enters without his stylist, seemingly in hopes to continue to prove his high status. Before the KOTR member enters, we are reminded of Stephen Dreadful's defeat from last week. A replay from last week is seen, showing the 15-second world title match as Greg Williams needs Steven Dreadful's head off instantly. Enter Steven Dreadful. Steven enters with anger and embarrassment and hopes that everybody forgets about last week by soundly beating Johnny tonight. Match 5, Johnny Fabuloso versus Steven Dreadful. Johnny fights alone for the first time in a while. Without Terry's help, he suffers a great deal of punishment by the intense and irritated Steven, but also shows more heart and passion in the process. Beaten down, Johnny is whipped to the ropes and is about to be finished with the arrival, only to counter into a hip toss of his own. However, during the move, the official is knocked down, causing all three to drop to the floor in pain. With Johnny fighting back, he hopes to hit these supermodel kicks, only for Steven to dodge and rake his eyes, fully aware that the official is down. Steven storms quickly to the outside and grabs the ring bell in hopes to knock his opponent out. Setting up for the KO blow, the ring bell gets snatched off Steven's hands by the appearing Terry Delighter. With Johnny shaking off the cobwebs, he tries to clothesline the distracted Steven, only for Steven to dodge. This almost causes Johnny to flatten his own manager, but he thankfully stops just in time. Taking advantage, Steven turns Johnny around and hopes to kick him right in the groin, only for Johnny to catch the foot. With the referee recovering and Dreadful on one leg, it allows Terry to give Steven a return nut shot, a really hard nut shot. As the referee stands, Johnny hits his no alibi for a cheeky win. Winner, Johnny Fabuloso. CJ walks to the ring with fury, outraged that Johnny and Terry have resorted to such a low form of measurement. Terry raises his model's hand with amusement, all while Johnny looks down at the pained opponent, almost feeling a little bit bad for Steven and his nether regions. The fabulous duo enter with conflicting emotions as CJ calls for help. After the entertaining scenes, up next, Riki Mathews returns. The Killers of the Revolution, Jade Williams and Gary Federline hope for a better success story than Steven Dreadful as they take on Riki Mathews and Daria. That is our main event, and that is next. Impetus returns from its commercial break with a replay from last week. With Greg Williams defeating Steven Dreadful in instant fashion, the Killers of the Revolution attacked, leading to Daria and the returning Riki Mathews to save the rebel. KOTR have been temporarily silenced. The question is, will Riki and Daria shut them up once and for all? Enter the Killers of the Revolution. With CJ attending to Steven's nether regions at the back, Jade and Gary enter, ready to eliminate their foes. Enter Daria. The commentators see a huge smile on Daria's face, remembering the external friendship between her and Riki Mathews. Waiting at the bottom of the ramp, her music stops, allowing all to prepare for Riki's return. Enter Riki Mathews. The hero is back and is ready to join his good friend in the fight against KOTR. Main event, Match 6, the Killers of the Revolution versus Riki Mathews and Daria. Gary stays away from Riki for the entirety of the contest, only choosing to participate against Daria. This strategy, although cowardly, enables KOTR to counter the babyface's awesome chemistry. Daria takes most of the abuse, while Riki wants desperately to save his friend. With Gary more than happy to slow down the pace, he stares at Riki, preparing to hit the Fed cred on his friend. However, Riki has had enough and storms into the ring to beat down his attacker. Gaining a fraction of revenge, Riki's retribution is stopped quickly as Gary gets a blind tag by Jade, allowing the giant to not only strike Riki down, but Daria too. With the two friends laid out, Jade hits the post-detonation on Riki. With Mathews rolling to the outside, he yells with huge pain as his previously healed ribs are creating another extraordinary amount of pain for him. As Riki tries to heal, Daria lays alone in the ring with Jade. Attempting to fight back, Daria stuns the giant and whacks Gary off the apron. About to start a comeback, Daria runs off the ropes, only to be caught in a sleeper hold. With Riki unable to stand on the outside due to his pained midsection, the giant's arms clutch the throat of the women's champion. After a moment in the hold, Daria gets guided to the floor with the submission still connected, eventually having her shoulders placed on the mat. Jade pins the women's champion with the sleeper hold still in. Winners, the Killers of the Revolution. Riki's return has ended with disappointment due to the sneaky and powerful actions of KOTR. As Steven Dreadful heals his balls in the back, Riki attempts to heal his ribs outside the ring. Footage of a pained Riki and a knocked out Daria is seen. Gary admires his giant female opponent as they exit with a smirk. KOTR have once again ended Impetus on top. Riki's return has been destroyed and Daria has felt the effects of the sleeper hold.